Today we're going to talk about combat and coloring books. I often sit around thinking about ways that we can grow this sport beyond what we are already doing. And while thinking about this, I came across this new book that just came out, The Big Book of Buhurt, a unauthentic medieval coloring book. And this is by Get Wrecked Design. I will put a link to their products below and also a link directly to where you can get this on Amazon. It's an entire coloring book of armored combat. It's pretty amazing, of Buhurt and steel fighting. And I think this is really creative, really cool, and something I wanted to highlight because when I'm thinking about how do we get eyes on this sport, we can continue the stuff that we're doing, holding better tournaments, having better production quality, having better advertisements, having formats that I think are more effective for fans. I've talked a lot about how I think the KFL format of chapter matches, as that continues to grow, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to really get fan bases in on teams. But beyond that, how do you get people involved or learning about a sport who have no exposure to it, right? So how do you get them involved? And I thought this was a really cool product and way of doing it. We don't have a lot of merch for our sport. We have teams occasionally putting out shirts, t-shirts or things like that. Speaking of that, plug for myself, go down below. You can find a link to my own website to help buy my shirts and my gear to help support my channel and grow it a little bit. The Woodchuck Knight product line of t-shirts, hats, etc. But most of the stuff that we have is this limited run that we're doing. Hey, let's put out a few shirts. We'll sell some at an event. And this here was the first kind of not production level, but you go on Amazon and just order this book and you get a coloring book full of different pictures of fighters and armored combat related stuff. Some of it's silly, some of it's straight out of moments from fights. You get different types of helmets and different art. And I was like, wow, this is a really great way to introduce people who know nothing about it. An easy gift you could buy for a friend. A lot of people are into coloring. You can just buy a book for it's not expensive. It's a reasonable price for a book. And you can buy it on Amazon. It showed up in 2 days. So I was thinking about what a cool idea. Now, I think if you're involved in the sport, you might buy it just because this is cool. That's why I bought it. I was like, I like coloring books things. This is my sport. I have a book. So that's really cool. But it's also something you can easily give as a gift to somebody who may not be invested in this. Maybe they are peripherally involved in armored combat stuff, or maybe they're more into hobbies like D&D, and you go, hey, here's this book of coloring. It's got knights and stuff in it. And I think that it's an easy way to expose more people to it. Now, I'm going to talk about what I really love here is there's a little description of the company in the back, a little sell of the book. But right in the front of it, the very first page is, let me go see if I can get to the first page, a description of what Buhurt is, an overview of a real quick history of it, some of the most important regional tournaments, and talking about, the historical authenticity of it, the sportification of it. It's a really cool way of introducing people to this. So it's not just a book full of knights, or medieval fantasy. It's a book full of real fighters doing a real sport, and this is really cool. I think this is an awesome idea. I believe there's a second one coming out pretty soon, and I think that's awesome, and I really wanted to highlight and promote this because I think it is really fantastic to be able to have something that I can literally give a page to somebody and say, hey, color this. And other thing that Get Wrecked Design did, which I love, is in the very back, everyone who's featured in it, they have their names listed here. So if you were in the book, you have a record that you were in it, that's just a cool little feature for people in the sport. But I was thinking about how do we do other stuff like this? So if you're a creative person, if you're out there making content, if you're out there promoting the sport, find ways to be creative and go above and beyond, right? So I think this is really awesome. I will say the one critique I have of it, that I've given this feedback to the designer, is there is some swearing in this book. I don't think that's a good idea for a coloring book. Not that I am against swearing or inappropriate comments. I've probably done it a bunch on this channel. I don't know. But I was going to buy a bunch of these. My wife suggested it for my nephews. And I'm not going to now because my nephews are little and their parents will not be happy if I hand them a book with swears in it. So I think that, I said, hey, what I would do in the next one is make it child appropriate. Adults can still color in it, but if you're going to give it to kids and maybe get people exposed to it at younger ages, that's a really cool way of doing it, but I need to be something I can give as gifts, because this makes a really easy gift for people. Most people in my life know that I'm involved in the sport. I talk about it a lot. In fact, I have an entire YouTube channel that you're watching about armored combat and steel fighting. I want to be able to spread the word. I think this is a fun way to do it. You know, I'm not going to buy a bunch of t-shirts to give out to people. We have to know their sizes and their style and all that, but this is a really easy stocking stuffer, a really easy simple birthday gift. Things like this are very cool. So I think that, you know, the message is one, I love this. I think you should buy it. I think it's awesome. Link down below, as I said. I am not affiliated. I get nothing from it, but it's just worth sharing. And I think the other thing to do is, like, if you're thinking about this, if you're involved in the sport, you want to grow it, how do you get people involved? Don't think about always what fighters want. That's important when you're setting up a tournament or you're planning structure and all that to make sure what the competitors care about. But think about, what do the fans want? How do people get involved? How do you bring in new fans? I will tell you, I've been to tournaments where I've gone around the town the day before because you know, I'm there a couple days earlier. I stop in local restaurants, or I go to other local like events things, and there's nobody in the town knows it's happening. Like, nobody went around and put up flyers. You know, I think that there's easy ways to expand your sport kind of knowledge, because I think we get a little insular and we all know the people who are doing it. And like, I don't care about the people who are doing it as much as I care about the people who don't know about it. If you're doing it, you're going to have a team or a club, or you have a website you can go to. You can find ways to get involved. If you are never been exposed to it, maybe this is the first video. Maybe you saw a coloring book. You like coloring books. You don't know what Buhurt is. Buhurt, the sport of armored combat. It's MMA night fighting. It's team fighting. It's fighting in full armor with steel, with real weapons. That's awesome. Every time I tell someone I do this sport, their first response is, I didn't know that existed. And that to me is the trigger that we have not grown enough. There are not a lot of niche sports that I can think of, even like niche ones, that I don't know they exist, right? And if they do, I know they're not big enough. I've talked a lot about my time playing tournament paintball. I don't know a lot of paintball players. In my world, I don't have many people who, you know, if I go to my day job and I say, oh, I played tournament paintball, I don't go, oh, I did that. You know, if I say I played high school basketball, which I also did, oh yeah, I played basketball, like that's, you know, that sport's much bigger. But if I said played tournament paintball, they go, oh yeah, I know what that is. They understand it. It's exposed enough that it's real. If I say I do armored combat, people go, well, what does that mean? If I say I do Buhurt, they go, I don't know what that is. Tell me about it. So I want to get us to the point that the name is out there and it's grown enough that people understand it exists. To do that, we need to think about, how do we draw people in? This is one little way, but a very cool way. So I wanted to highlight it, make a quick video about it, and challenge all of you to do one thing you can to grow your sport, to interact with your community, or to find ways to get people involved. Like, subscribe, follow, all that wonderful stuff. I'm the Woodchuck Knight. Thanks for watching.